All right, good evening. Welcome to the last class of this mod. This has been a fun mod. Hopefully you guys have been learning a lot. And so tonight, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be covering the last of what's needed this week. Also, remember, please turn everything in by Saturday. And as always, if you have any questions, please let me know. All right, so we talked about learn the data hierarchy and learn about using computer data files in programming. So now we're going to discuss right now about sequential data files, random access files, and merging data files, okay? We already talked about the how to do the file operations. Remember, find file, open, then the read or the write, and then close. All right, so now learning about the sequential data files. Let's talk about what a sequential data file is. All right, so sequential data, let's try that again. A sequential data file. Let's bring up Illustrator because that shows it pretty well. With a sequential data file, it's A, B, C, D. All right, that's how we're going to look at a sequential data file. It's a group of elements, such as data in a memory array of a disk file. And usually it's magnetic data tape or whatever, but it's actually accessed in a specific order. All right, so create new. And we're going to do letter 11 by 8.5, create. All right, so for this, what I'm going to do is we're going to do red, green, so green and blue. And we're going to do a combination of these, okay? All right, so now we have those. Now we're going to make a combination. All right, so sequential data. To do a sequential data, you're going to actually access it. Bring up my arrows again. All right. Now let's use this one tonight. All right, so for sequential data, what we're doing is we'll start here. So A, we hit this data. And we go to this data, this data, this data, this data, and then this data. And if we have to start over, it goes back. Okay, that's sequential. Now, random. Random's done a little bit differently. All right, so let's put this down here and do a random. For random data, we're accessing it. What we do is we'll start here. Step 1. Now, I don't need to do step 2, so we're going to go collect step 3. Let's say we want to skip to the end, all right? And then to skip back, it's just a random. So there's no pattern of what we need, okay? So you can go any direction, anywhere. Doesn't have to be skip 2, skip. There's no pattern to it, okay? So that's what we mean by random data. Now, when we're merging files, we need to actually have a similarity. Okay, so let's bring up what we did yesterday. So file. In fact, the best way to do this, yeah, here we go. We're going to do it here. File new. Okay. So let's say I have two data files here. All right. First one is going to be called, in fact, I'll show you. Come to right here. Animals' birth dates and animal type. Okay. So we're going to have those two. So this will be anim underscore bday. Okay, now we're getting into actually coding names. That's going to be the name of that file. All right. So next, we need over here, we have their bday. So we need anim type. All right. So there we have our two databases. All right. Now, when you're doing this, we're going to have a chart. Okay. Now this is going to go. All right. So let's take a look over there. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 4 different areas. All right. So now we have 3. So we need 1 more. Okay. And this isn't going to be really perfect. All right. So now we need 1 more. All right. So we have the 4 there. All right, now when we look at this, we're going to copy this, and it's going in. And now we're going to look at the types of text in it. So this is going to be first NM for name. CV. MI for middle initial. Okay, now notice these are the types. This is the name of that cell. So most people would do something like mid name. Okay. All right. And then we have last name. All right. And then the last thing we need is birth date, right? And so that would be B-day or birth date. Notice all lowercase. All databases are usually lowercase. All right, so now this is the birth dates. Now we're going to do the animal type, all right? But now we're just going to copy that and put it there because guess what? I was able to copy that one, and the only difference now is animal type. All right. Okay, so now we have our two databases. These are separate data sets, okay? Now, let's go ahead and we're going to, for the background color, let's put a blue there, all right? Oh, green will work. All right, so now I have them named. Now, I need to have a key element in both of them. Now, how did I end up? Somehow I ended up with an extra cell here. All right, there we go. So I have to have a key element so that two of them can be searched. All right, otherwise, well, I have, yes, they're named the same thing, but they have to tie together. And that key element needs to be different, something that ties them together differently, okay? Now here, well, this will be the key element for those two. That's the difference, right? So we're going to mark the key elements as blue. And their text, let's make the text yellow, just so it's visible. Okay. So we'll grab the yellow. There we go. All right, now, so those are key data cells. The key data cells are what we're going to actually say, these are the differences. Okay, so the birth date and the animal type. Well, by doing that, these are all the same, right? So if I said these were different, it will come back negative. Nothing's in them. All right. So what we have to do is where are the similarities? And we're going to tie those similarities together. So first name. And let's grab my brush. Okay, so first name. And this will be actually both ways. This goes both directions. So we're going to cut that in half. And we're going to do this just to demonstrate this. Come on. There we go. Transform, reflect, opposite, copy. All right, so now we have those two tied together. All right, and there's that. So see, those two actually come together now. We have our first names tied together. Well, if they're similar, we also need to have a secondary one, right? So we're going to say off of the middle initial, because most of the time middle initials will be different, right? So by doing that, we have just narrowed down what the elements are, right? Well, now, once we start this, now we're going to take, what happens is we have these tied together. First name is going to match first name. All right, now let's go over here to Excel. All right, so first name. So we're going to create one database now by merging these. All right, do this, Command V, and we're going to extend that one more cell. All right, so next, what we're going to do, we're going to take these here, the type, and then the birth dates. Okay, so that's how you merge them together. We're going to get them all into one, right? All right, now what we need to do is, like I said, I have first name and first name tied together, right? Well, by having those two tied together, so let's color those just so you know they're tied together. By having those, it's going to take this information and automatically put it there. All right, now because of that, I've also tied this and this, right? So those are the secondary ties. All right, so in this process, now we've got these tied together with those. Okay, so next, the type. And the date of birth. So that's how we combine databases, all right? Now let's go back. Okay, now we want to get all the information. So we're going to go copy. Now, see how these are? I just did because I brought in the birth dates to that field. What that did is I just caused a syntax error because this type matches there. It does not match the setup for the date of birth, which is a date field versus text. All right, so now we're going to take this, post it there. There we go. And these, we're going to clear the data. And we'll take these here. What? Let's try that again. Whoa. How did I do that? What did I just do? There we go. I'm going to take that, copy it, put it here. Okay, now that I have that, what I want to do, I've made one database out of them by combining them off of the fields. All right, these are primary and secondary fields that I just combined them with. So by doing this, we've now combined the two fields, right? But we only have one name because we don't need two. All right, so this is a new database. So let's make it a different color because of that. There we go. It's a new database. We've just combined them. And actually, when you combine them, it doesn't really make a database. It just takes the information from two databases and put it out as a list. So, all right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to now do this. All right. In fact, let's do it there too. There we go. All right, so now we have this list. So the next step is we actually start writing and pulling data out of it, okay? To pull data out, this is where we're going to highlight those. And now what I can do is by making one whole thing, I can make my reports, all right? And this is where the sort comes in, all right? So we're going to highlight those, data sort. Now, I can alphabetize it by last name. Let's do that, which it was already done, right? Because we did that yesterday. And the way that we brought it over was exact as it is. Well, what that does is now I can see, all right, I don't have any extras. I don't have two cells of the same thing. So it's a check, all right? I can also, because, for example, if this one said Bugs Bunny and this one says Bugs E Bunny, I will get two different lines of data here. One that says Bugs Bunny, one that says Bugs E Bunny. All right. So this is how we do that double check. Okay. And that's because I did it off the second field. That means if this is blank and one has something in it, as a secondary, those are two different files according to what it sees. So again, it goes back to the computer only does what you tell it to do. All right, so now, next, what we want to do is we're going to highlight those, Come back up here, and the auto filter. This is where our reports come in. I want to report just the names. All right. Well, if I want just the names, these two on the report don't need to be mentioned. So this is what a report will look like. Control C, right? And then we're going to go here. All right, so animal, and I didn't change the name, did I? So anim data, all right? All right, and this will be anim data as well. But this is going to be animal, we're going to rename this, name, and it's a report. Okay, so the report isn't part of the name. It just tells you what you just did. So we're going to label that a different color. Make it orange. All right, so it's a report. Reports are now orange. All right, so this would be a query. I combined the databases and then wrote a query to pull out the information. All right, so based on this, now, if I want just the names, this does not get pulled across because I only ask for this. So the report would be looking like this. Okay, so we end up, again, we're going to start with that green up there. CV. All right, so here is the main database. So let's go back and get our colors. All right, so blue's the main, so we're going to make the blue. All right, so these are going to be blue because they're the two main databases, right? So we're going to make them blue. All right, now the combined database. So Command CV. And this one is anim type, right? All right, so now we have our combined database and that color. Let's go back and get the color. And you'd be doing these colors across the board. So it's kind of a very light green. Let's see what we have. It's even lighter, so we'll take, let's go with, okay, remember I'm colorblind, so I'm making that as close as I can. So we're gonna go with that. All right, so now I wanna do a report. And the report, I'm only pulling, and remember, these two are tied. All right, and so this, let's make those different colors as the secondary. What did we say the secondary was? Let's go back over here. Light blue and yellow is the primary. All right, so this one, light blue. All right, so there's our secondary, and our primary was yellow. So we'll choose yellow. All right, now based on that, this becomes the light blue. All right, so let's take this, and I'm going to take the hexadecimal, copy it, 0D F1 F7. This is the easiest way to do this, right? So we're going to make this the secondary, 0D F17. All right. Now the primary is yellow, so we're going to do the same thing. Since that's not a pure yellow, I'm going to grab it, F0 FC03. All right, now we go down to here, and we're going to do the same thing. All right, so now we have these set up the same way, right? Well, now I want to do a report. To do a report, all we have to do is pull data from this, all right? And what exactly did I say I wanted for that report? Let's go back and look. Just their names. All right, so if I want to do a report, I'm going to copy this for now, make this a lot easier. All right, now the reports were orange. So this is going to be animals name. And because it's a report, all I have to do is put the color on there. All right, so let's go to orange. Orange. Marker, there we go, perfect. All right. And first name, middle name, last name, and there's my report. All right, so these, what's happening here, let's go back to here. Is I'm pulling the report from this database. All right, so that's how you work with the data. Because the combined, now instead of that, I'm going to use this because these two kind of equal that, if that makes sense. All right, so this is how a database schema was written, okay? We come down and boom. Now, remember, I did not num this. Okay, so this would be yellow. This would be yellow, but that's what the arrows are, okay? These are the data of the same type. Okay, so now we have our report. So now that we've done the report, that's how we work with this data. Okay, so what I'm going to do is quickly do a quick check here. See where we're at on the notes. Okay, so learn about using computer data files in programming. We did that. Remember, you have to find the data, open the data, which, because usually it's in the same file, folder on the computer, it's easy to find. But if not, then you have to go find it. Otherwise, you could just say open if it's in the same one. But otherwise, you have to actually open and put the directory where it's at. Can't just say open file name, okay? We talked about data hierarchy, file operations, and sequential data files randoms. So, just a quick one. All right, file handling and applications. Text files. The text files can be read in any type of program that reads text, for example, Word or any text editor, okay? Or data that's been encoded using a schema. Now, the schema is this right here, all right? We have the levels of the schema. Database is right here. Now, this is not really a database because it's drawn everything together. So we did a query to combine them. But they're still taking up space, okay? Because it's kind of a report, but it's now everything together. If I delete this one, it messes everything up down the line, okay? Data security here, all right? So this is still part of the database. Now this right here is known as a query. And this down here is a report. Okay, so that's how it works. Whoa. So that's how this works, okay? Data structures, you combine the databases, and then you write a query to pull the data that you want specifically. Now, you could do queries from this as well. Now, if I did that, I could do this exact same report from here because it's got the same data, right? Or for the same thing, it's got the same data, I could do it here. All right. So these are all queries, but whoops. Now that I've combined the databases into one, it would be easier. You know, you can use any of these three for this report. Now, if I wanted to say what type of animal was around first, at that point, this one would make a query and I would use the data, the type of animal now. Okay, so here, to do this report, what we're going to do, man, in fact, we're going to copy this. All right, now for this one, the report is going to be animal first. We'll just call it that, all right? So with that one, I don't need these. So that would just pull these two out. Now, because it's a query, I don't have to have the key data frame like I would up here. Reports don't need those, but I just did that to show how I brought the data across, okay? But here is now a report, animal type, and their date of birth. And then you could organize that the way you want. Okay, so that is text files. Binary files contain data that has not been encoded as text. Images and music. Those two are not, okay? With our file types, usually there's a lot of them. When it comes to file types, we have a lot of different file types. We have text files, data files, which are .dat, text.txt, JPEGs, and so on. There's so many more that we could pull across. And now there's even new ones that have data in them. They're graphics that have data in them, all right? Organizing files. Computer files on a storage device are electronic equivalent of paper files stored in file cabinets. Remember, I demonstrated that like with the library yesterday, okay? All right, when we talk about characters, I'm going to stress this one a little bit more from yesterday. They're letters, numbers, or special symbols. That can be anything. Let's go. Bring this up. Insert. Let's see, where's it at? Symbol. Symbols. Okay. Text, symbols, and this could also include the asterisk, the pound, which a lot of people know as hashtag anymore, the @ symbol, the explanation, and so on, okay? So this just adds to those. It's the glyphs, okay? So basically anything within a keystroke. And that includes spaces and tabs. Now, at one time, let's go ahead and use this. Whoops, we don't need that. I think I went over this, so this would be a refresher. At one time, passwords would be something like this, and you'll be able to see it. So let's do yes -2 3. Okay. Now, if I made a mistake typing it, right there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so that's 8. Now, if I made a mistake typing it, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then let's say I did this. That's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, yeah, 12. So that would have been 12 because the backspace counted for one character. So I had 2, then I backspaced twice, so that added 4 to that. That's not the way it is anymore. Most let you do that, fix that. There's still some out there that don't. Now, remember, characters are made up of bits. What is a bit? Every bit placed end to end create a line. That's what a bit is, okay? So it's the line of data. All right, so let's talk about the data hierarchy again. Fields are data items that each represent single attributes to a record. All right, so field. The field is the name, first name. Records, the group of fields. So this row right here is one record. Files are groups or related records. All right, now, this is a record, this is a file, this is a file. Now we combine them into a group, so this is still a file that's pulling from those two files. All right, now file identifier. Most languages, I'm going to put this, read this as is in my notes, okay? Most languages support several types of files, but one way to categorizing these files is by whether they can be used for input or for output. Input is something you have to put in or you're pulling in. This is the input because it's here to this file. We inputted it by pulling it over. Here I input it by typing it in. The output, well, the output would be this right here, what goes out, and then same with the report, okay? Now, input and output file types are capitalized in this book, which is the one we're using. Input file, employee data. Now, like I said, some can be, some cannot. I've always done the lowercase, and the reason is you have to remember, there's Mac, there's PC, and there's another operating system. So Windows, and then there's, the operating system for Mac. And then there's one other one here to show you what that is. 3 main computer operating systems. Again, showing you how to break this down to research. And guess what? Linux. Now, Linux does a lot of different things. This is why when I first learned it, you made sure to do all lower cases, no spaces, because Linux gets very picky. Linux programmers are a little bit different because it's not the programmer, it's the program that's different, okay? So their style of programming is a little different on how they name things and how they do other stuff. But they could come up with the same exact type of outcome. All right. So opening a file, like I said, you have to open the file first. Well, here, we open this up, right? We open this up. Now we do a report because we opened it up. Now remember, we had output R or W, and then there was another output, right? Well, W is writing. That's how we create a report. We just wrote it right there, okay? Reading, processing, writing, close data. Okay, before you can use stored data, so I'm repeating this again, you must load the data into computer memory. To get that, open file. Data can be stored. File can be sequential, or it could be, so we can go back and have these two. We have, yeah, mind dump. In the middle of what I'm doing, I hate when I do that. Okay, we have sequential data or random files, random access data. All right. All right, so let's go back. Now this is sequential. Random would be, well, I want just the bunnies. Well, guess what? So there's 2 rabbits. By doing this, we come over here. Well, I want just the rabbits. All right. So I skipped the other data to pull these 2 out. Now, that's a query as well. This is a query. Okay. But if I'm creating a database by pulling this and that's all I wanted, well, I just created my database instead of a report. You can do that. Okay. Stored the data in the computer file, which is right, and closing the file. All right, now let's talk about control break logic. A control break is where you basically, for a moment, leave the logic. This would be considered a control break because I'm not going step by step by step. I'm choosing wherever, but it's not random. Well, it can be random, don't get me wrong. But a controlled break is saying random, but it's also saying, hey, well, let's skip this one right now and come back to it later. Read in records from a sorted sequential file so that all records that belong to specific groups are stored together in sequence. Process each record, checking to determine if it still belongs in the same group as the previous record. Pause for special processing whenever a new group or record is encountered. Well, let's say, based on this, suddenly, over here, we have a file that doesn't match. Okay, so that's going to be Slowpoke Rodriguez, and he's a mouse. Okay, well, this one doesn't match, so we've now come to an error. All right, well, that is going to be pulled out to new animal types. And this is what I get from it. Okay, so I just created another database based off of that. All right, so we're going to do here, here, okay. There we go. So I just created another one because they don't match. Okay. So that's a controlled break by doing that. Now, merging sequentials. As we talked about merging them, it's just like a company. We have 2 businesses that need to merge. They come together, and everything comes into one thing, like we said right here. Okay. All right, so master and transactional file processings will we come to now. A master file holds complete and relatively permanent data. These 2 would be master files because, well, we put them together and they have all the information based on what we were looking for at the time. This now combines them. This is not permanent because it's combining the two of them. This can change depending on what happens in one of these. Now, what we're going to do because, well, right here, a new one was added, right? Now, because it was added, well, guess what? This one now is its own, but it will still come over to here, okay? Because this is pulling from the master databases. But it also created a separate one. Remember, we could create 5 or 6 going on. Okay, and transaction file, which is this, temporary data. This is a transaction data file, okay? Holds more temporary data. For example, a master customer file might hold records that each contain a customer's name, address, phone number, and balance, and a customer transaction file might contain data that describes each customer's most recent purchase. All right, so this is what they are and their date of birth. So this describes them more, okay? So that's why this is a transaction, all right? All right, so out of all this, I hope you guys understood everything we did and can bring it together. Just remember that data is a building block, right? And usually you build it downward, okay? And that will go over to this one. And then we build more based off of those. Now, you can actually have the data mix, or you can keep it separate. Okay? Now, as you can see, it's starting to build here. And this is how you get all your reports, is by having the main data organized, pulling from that data, and making your reports. Okay? So this is how it looks. There's no definite pyramid effect, for example. All right, let's go. We're going to delete that one for a minute. All right. So there's no pyramid effect here like this. A lot of people seem to think right off the bat, oh, good, a data pyramid. Well, yes, it's a pyramid, but it's not exactly straightforward. Here's your pyramid. Okay? Doesn't work that way. Now, you can make parts of it work that way, but remember, these all break down and combine. Okay? And then you can come down here further, and with this data, you could pull even more data. Like this would be orange. Whoops. Orange there. Now I'm going to combine those two with an orange. See how that's now combined those two? And we'll make just one report. out of it. This one, well, based off that data, I now make a report. Okay, so this is how that works. Okay, we break it down from the top to the bottom. All right, so for this week, you're going to complete the exercise. Now, if you're having a hard time finding those exercises, again, do what I showed you last week. Now, I will also accept a chart. If you guys want to take the time and create a chart of how a data file works, all the parts of it that I've demonstrated, I'll accept that too, because that's starting to show me you can break this down. So I'm not going to be really picky on this, like I said, because some people can't get to it. Here's the option. This or a chart. Either way, you're going to submit it, okay? Let me make sure I can accept it. So a text entry box or file upload. Let me make sure I can accept any types of file. Yes, there's text entry and any type of file upload. So I give you guys that option because I want you guys to have fun. I also want you to be able to understand this and put it together. By doing so, that'll get you so ready for the next step of this, okay? If you can break out each set of data, label it, you're showing that you guys understand this mod. Now, that being said, let's check something here really quick. No. That being said, now, where do we take this from here? This is where you start learning each different type of programming. There's a lot of different ones out there. And by learning them, you start to learn how to, once you learn one, the others are usually easy to pick up. Not always, but usually. And the reason is because you learn one. The next one, it's the same layout. All data file structures and all programs are laid out the same. It's a matter of the actual coding language itself. For example, if I were to bring up a TI-99-4A, which is an old computer, one of the commanders would be, I'd hold Shift, and there was a key at the very top that said print. And what that would give me would be line 10, print. What do I want it to print? Now, this isn't breaking it out fully. This is just demonstrating, okay? Because when I start getting technical on how to do this, that's where the different languages come in. All right, so print, I love the world. Or here's one that we always see. Print my name. And a lot of people, and I'll put that in brackets, because a lot of people, that's one of the first things they do when they love programming, when they learn to program, is they will print their name. All right? 20. And actually, we'll start with line 1. Let's go to line 1. We have to run. Okay? Well, on the TI-99-4A, that was actually Shift-run. And it would print the word run right there. So we have to run the program name. All right? 2. This is where, and this is why I said you keep spaces in between. All right? If, so number 1. So x equals 1. 1. Okay. So this would be line 6 or whatever. 20. If x equals 1 equals 10, go to 30. 25. I'm going to do the same thing. 27. Here we have to go to 10. There, I just made my loop. Now, 30, end. So there's a very basic idea of a program broke out. And like you saw, this is how we were doing it, right? So by doing this, this is the basic thing. We did our loop. We did all sorts of different things here, okay? But we did the run, the end. Okay, so we run the program. X equals 1, print. So usually, well, this will probably not be there. It's just left as an example so I can add spaces in there when I need them. Okay, go to if x equals 10. That means I've added. Well, guess what I forgot here? And this is why we do this. Insert. It's down 11. Or let's do 15. X equals x plus 1. Boom. That's now my loop. All right. So you guys are starting to see how to look at this, the syntax there and everything. And that's what the goal of this class was. All right. I look forward to seeing everything from everybody. Thank you. This has been a fun mod, and I look forward to seeing your final work. Have a nice evening. And you know what? I did not share the screen. Let's do the share really quick. All right. Here's what I was discussing in the last 10 minutes. All right. This would be a Commodore 69, TI-99 4A. Computers after that, you just started typing it. It was just as quick. But as you can see, the run program name, x equals 1, print my name, x plus 1, x equals x plus 1. And this would be a syntax error because that needs to be a small x just like the others. If x equals 10, go to line 30 and you end. Otherwise, print and go to line 10. Now you print it again, then x equals x plus 1 again until it equals 10, and then it goes to 30. All right, so there's that. And I will mention the last 10 minutes of class. I forgot to share screen, but shared it. Let's see. Yeah, shared it at the very end and described it. So thank you guys. Have a nice evening, and I will see you soon.